Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. SCOPS for 2024 got off to a great start a couple of weeks ago at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and now it is time for the second weekend of the 2024 V8SCOPS calendar. Of course, it's Friday night, and that means we start with Support Series action, the GTC Series and the V8s once again coming up here at the virtual Phillip Island circuit in virtual Victoria. And wow, it's going to be a fantastic night at one of Australia's premier circuits, starting off with GT4 and TCR action. And to bring it to you all live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Kick, it's me, Reese Gardner, Dean Hunt, once again with me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy pressing all the buttons behind the scenes. Dean, Phillip Island. It's a track that almost needs no introduction for people in the AusNZ Sim sphere. It's one of the premier tracks in the country, famous for the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix, and also being technically the birthplace of the Bathurst 1000 of all things.
Yeah, Reece, Phillip Island definitely gets a lot of love in the Australian Simiverse. One of my favourite tracks for sure. It's a great balance of high-speed corners, long straights, and of course lots of low-speed corners for great overtaking opportunities. You know, it's only 4.4 k's long, but we just love this track down under, Reece.
Yeah, we do indeed. It is fast, it is flowing, it has a few heavy braking zones as well. The opening sequence of corners is one of the most iconic in Australia, the flat out right of Doohan Corner into the flowing southern loop, running up to Miller Corner at turn 4, Siberia at turn 6, all the way up through Lukey Heights into MG, one of the most challenging sections of the racetrack, and MG at turn 10 being the prime overtaking opportunity. Got to try and get a good exit out of it, because the final corner is nearly flat out in these GTC machineries, the GT4 and TCR cars. It's crucial to get that exit onto the front straight, because slipstreaming is key around here.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's a bit of a challenge with the setups as well, because you're kind of in between two minds with the long straights and the fast corners. You know, how much wing are you going to run? You know, how are you going to set your suspension, your anti-roll bars, and that. It's a big challenge for a lot of drivers, really. One challenge they're not going to have to face tonight, though, is a compulsory pit stop. At the moment, we're in the qualifying session, so there's 10 minutes. This week, they've gone solo qualifying, and then the first race will be 15 minutes, which is a straight-up sprint, and then 20 minutes for the second race, and the grids will carry over.
Indeed it will. Of course, live race control and manual safety cars. The Proven Energy Porsche Mission Rs are sitting in the pit lane, ready to come out if there's a huge incident out on track. And drivers need to request to tow back to the pits. So, in the GT4 class, Matthew Pignata won the opening round of the championship at Montreal. Sebastian Flock running in second place. The Alpha Venturi and Evolution Racing Team Mercedes are looking very quick right now, but we can't count out the likes of Luke Swan and Aidan Luthwaite either. They're looking pretty successful so far in this class.
Oh yeah, Pignata and Flock really ran away with it last week. They were quite very dominant, but yeah, look out for the boys down below. You know, they've got a lot to prove. There's a few points in between, but it's very early on in the season. The guys like Faulkner and Schuler down there can definitely catch back up. As we move to the TCR standings as well, we saw Hobbo take the win last week with Mulqueen actually had a big comeback to take second. And then Edward Shelley, Robbie Bradbury, and Garrett Batten, all Pacific Esports racing guys, taking out third, fourth, and fifth last week as well.
Yeah, of course, the GT4 and TCR class are both running on track at the same time. It's a very interesting grid for this one. It's going to be headed up by Jordan Malcolm in the 1.9 McLaren, which I don't believe we've seen before in the series. Might not have been present at round one. Sebastian Flock joins him on the front row. Matthew Pignata, who was the winner of the first round and championship leader, starts alongside Nick Lacassis for Australia-wide racing. Russell Pepperell brings his Mercedes out of fifth place alongside Aidan Luthwaite, fourth in the championship. Benjamin Faulkner for Race on Oz, starting alongside KRF Motorsports' Brett O'Keefe. Damien Cross and Pat Oliver will round out the top 10 in the GT4 class. Then we go to Ryan Green and Luke Swan in 11th and 12th. Taylor Oakes is going to start alongside Alex Schuler on the 7th row of the grid. Then we go to Mitch Hobbs and Matthew Deere, 15th and 16th. Craig Mason and Cole Boykin are going to start at a 17th and 18th. Linton Wills starts 19th place alongside KRF's Mark Noble. And Josh Maynard and Louis Robertson are the last two cars in our GT4 field. 22 of them taken to the circuit tonight, Dean.
Yeah, that's right. We got Brenton Hobson for the leader of the TCRs, current championship leader as well. Then we got Robert Henry on P2 for Kiwi Sim Racing. Stephen Banks off P3 for Pacific Esports, and Edward Shelley also Pacific Esports P4. Mulqueen off, sorry, I had an issue there. Mulqueen off P5 with Synergy Sim Racing. Robbie Bradbury with P6 Pacific Esports. Brady Baldwin, Synergy Sim Racing P7. Garrett Batten P8 Pacific Esports. Tyson Hanmer Vermilion, Brody Watts 949 on P9 and 10. Simon Gorowski for Alpha Venturi and Scott Griffiths for Synergy Sim Racing 11 and 12. Reese Tamanui for P13 and Trevor Hearn P14. And that's the end of the grid as we are coming down to get this one started.
Yes, indeed. Looks like Trevor Hearn out there as well in the Audi, right at the back of the TCR field. So, making their way around on the formation lap behind the iRacing controlled AI pace car. Trevor Hearn's going to have quite a bit of a run here, right at the back of this TCR field. Plenty of tyre warming going on. TCR, very difficult to drive on cold tyres, as I found out in the Southern Cross Esports Summer Elantra series that concluded a couple of weeks ago, Dean. It's a bit less of an issue in the GT4 class, though. Powerful rear-wheel drive GT cars, they get the tyres heated up nicely around here.
Yeah, not only that, but they also have a little bit more downforce, I believe, than the TCRs, just because of that raw pace and top speed. It will be a bit tricky to get the tyres warmed up in the TCR, like you said, but I think after a few corners of revving around those front wheels, they'll get nice and hot. But the rears are what you got to look out for, I think, on a track like this at the Southern Loop. They can really get away from you, and you can end up in the fence looking at the ocean, and it might be a nice view, but that's not really where you want to be in a race.
No, certainly not. It's a brilliant circuit, this, and we are on for two fantastic races in the GTC series tonight. Pace car comes in, and now the start will be controlled by Jordan Malcolm in the McLaren. Of course, the TCR field will be holding until the first DRS line on the front straight coming out of the final corner here. So be a nice controlled start in both classes here. Jordan Malcolm puts the power down as the green flag flies, and we are racing in the GT4s here. There's a really good start from Malcolm. Flock getting chased by Matthew Pignata coming down to turn 1. Nicholas Lacassis in the Porsche really going for it as well in third, as the start is now on for the TCR field. And man, Brenton Hobson really backed them all up there, didn't he? That's a perfect execution there from Synergy Sim Racing's Brenton Hobson, championship leader. Car off in the GT4 class. Meanwhile, Damien Cross all the way to the back of the field there. Looks like a problem for Sebastian Flock as well. Then remember, he started in second. He currently runs all the way down in 9th.
Yeah, that's not an ideal start. It'll be interesting to see what's happened there as we see Edward Shelley into the fence at turn 1. But obviously that's not how you want to be starting round 2. It'll be good to see a replay of what's happened to him as we...
Yeah, big dramas in the TCR class, actually. It was quite a big crash coming through the first turn. Edward Shelley getting turned around, it seems, going 3 wide with Stephen Banks and Robert Henry. We'll get that replay shortly, but for now, we keep our eyes on the GT4 class, the Alpha Venturi racing car of Matthew Pignata, still chasing down Jordan Malcolm at the end of the first lap, as pretty much everyone is running in single file now. We already see I think a bit of a problem for Cole Buchan, as this is what happened at the start of the TCR race. Edward Shelley getting spun around like a ballerina right in front of the field, and that involved multiple cars.
Yeah, we've seen that all too many times here at Phillip Island. That's a very fast part of the circuit, and, you know, going 3 wide into there does not always come off very well. Damon Mulqueen also dropping down in the field there. He might have been involved in a few of those incidents, but he's just rolled straight back onto the track, and that's not ideal for anyone behind. And it's very hard to avoid it there because, yeah, cars going everywhere. You're going 180 k's an hour. Not the easiest feat to keep your car on the track.
No, certainly not. Side by side between Sebastian Flock and Russell Pepperell. That's another position made up for Flock. Now to 7th place. Pat Oliver was the AVR Mercedes we were looking at earlier at the end of the lap. Here's the battle for 6th, BJ O'Keefe. He's got a bit more breathing room because Flock had a big oversteer moment at the exit of Siberia just behind him. It looks like Pepperell's back past him for the time being, but O'Keefe chasing down Benjamin Faulkner right now in the race on Oz Aston Martin. There isn't going to be much room for a move coming down into MG right now, but drivers certainly having a look. The psychological game's starting already.
Oh yeah, and I think the drivers are going to have to find the right balance of calculation and aggressiveness with their moves tonight, because, like we said, it's only 15 minutes for the first race and 20 for the second. There's no pit stop. You don't have a lot of opportunity to make a move there. As we go, Simon Gorowski getting passed by Brodie Watts as he's looking around the outside. Maybe they're still side by side up into Lukey Heights, and Brodie Watts got the inside here, which is going to be really good for him. He's coming to MG, and he looks like he's got the move done there.
Perfect. Excellently done there from Brodie Watts. It's difficult to get passes done in the TCR class. If you want an update on other cars that have had problems in TCR, it looks like Scott Griffiths, who collected Edward Shelley in the lap 1, turn 1 incident. He's pulled into the pits, and I don't know if we're going to be seeing much more of him. O'Keefe, meanwhile, he's backed up a little bit. Look at this. Pepperell and Flock side by side again behind him. The outside line through Siberia is possible, but looks like a better exit for Russell Pepperell, keeping Flock behind him for just a moment longer. And Sebastian Flock has certainly not had the start that he wanted. Remember, he started in 2nd place, so I'd be interested to see what exactly caused that for him. It looks like he just ran off the track at the exit of turn 2, but he's going to try for a move here on Russell Pepperell. Just enough room being given by the Kiwi sim racing driver, and it looks like it's going to be another frustration for Sebastian Flock here as he tries to make up time.
Yeah, he looks like he's got a bit of a run here, though, in front, so he could get a bit of a draft and get it done at turn 1. You see on the replay below, you might see what, yeah, he's just got a little bit of contact maybe from the rear and gone off at the start, and that's quite a high-speed area of the track, so it's easily to lose spots here, there, as we see, as we go back to Flock trying to make the move, get the move done on O'Keefe, sorry, on Pepperell, and he gets it done through the southern loop. It's not where you want to be on the outside there. It's a tricky corner to hold it around the outside. So I think Pepperell's done pretty well there just to acknowledge that. Well, we got a car off in front as well.
Oh yeah, that's Griffiths. He got some repairs done in the pits, but I don't think it's been enough. That car is still very heavily damaged from the lap 1 incident in the TCR class. So he's just going to potter around the circuit off the racetrack. Look at the amount of left-hand down he's got. That wouldn't be very fun to drive at all. So unfortunate there for one of our Synergy Sim Racing drivers in TCR. But the battle for the lead is still very much on here. Pignata actually having made his way past Jordan Malcolm. And I would suspect that happened, it actually happened last lap. It wasn't through MG, and it wasn't through Southern Loop either. It happened all the way back on lap 2. Unfortunately, we missed that pass for the lead in all of the chaos that was happening all around the field. But Jay is here to save us with the replay. GT4 having a lot of trouble keeping it on the track there, including Jordan Malcolm, and Matthew Pignata just drove by him on the front straight.
Yeah, it's easily done there when you're under a lot of pressure from the drive behind. It's quite easy to go wide at that final turn there, but I don't think this battle's over at all. You know, Malcolm's still got the fastest lap of the race, and he was on pole for a reason. So I think Pignata and Malcolm are going to have a good fight, not just in this race, but potentially in the second race tonight as well.
Yeah, lots of opportunities to get your moves done around here tonight. Looking at the number 17 of Robert Henry battling hard with Reese Tamanui. Brady Baldwin in the Synergy Sim Racing Elantra up ahead. Now, the Honda Civic is a good car around tracks that don't have particularly harsh curves or that many bumps. So Phillip Island, probably a good track for the Honda, which is also apparently the heaviest of the TCR cars here. Robert Henry making it work very nicely as Brady Baldwin tries desperately to stay ahead coming into Southern Loop. He is a little wide in the middle of the corner though. Henry makes up the time with a tighter line to the inside of the corner. Not quite enough to get the move done here, but it might be done at Miller. Baldwin potentially will have to go defensive here, and he does. He moves to the inside. Robert Henry on the racing line, though, braking a little bit later. Can he get the move done? No. The tyre's still not quite up to temperature just yet to allow him to do that.
Yeah, he ran very wide there, and it's what do we cut to the pit lane here?
Malcolm.
We've got Jordan Malcolm in the pit lane. That is definitely not ideal. He was, that's a commentator curse perhaps, but he was running quite well. I'm not sure what's going on here, if he's got some damage or not. He perhaps has forgot to put his race setup on. He could still be on qualifying fuel. And we've got a very broken-looking McLaren out there, VJ O'Keefe as well. Let's hope he can limp that back to the pits and keep the Proven Energy safety car at bay.
Yeah, that was an off at the final turn for Brett O'Keefe. We'll see how it happened here. Just a bit of understeer through that very fast final corner. He tried to get it recovered, and then it gripped up and swung around on him. Ended up getting his back end into the wall and the rear wing off the McLaren there. I would expect O'Keefe to go straight to the pits to get that damage repaired. Meanwhile, in the TCR class, well, it's the Brenton Hobson show. Look at that. There's no one else around him. He is that far ahead of the rest of our TCR field. He leads by 8.8 seconds over Tyson Hanma, as that's a problem for one of our GT4s, Taylor Oaks in the Orbit Motorsport Mercedes. That's enough of a crash that he's actually fallen behind pretty much the entirety of the GT4 field, save for O'Keefe and Malcolm. How on earth did this happen for him? It seems like potentially a botched move from the number 16. It was Matthew Deere.
Pretty far alongside there from that angle. We probably might need to see another replay, but I think that'll be a tricky one for race control to try and dissect. As we see Sebastian Flock coming up behind Faulkner now. Maybe looking at the inside there. He's got the inside line as we're coming into the southern loop. Can he keep it on track from the outside for the 84 of Flock? Maybe looking at the in and out here.
That's a great exit.
He's got a really good exit here. He's got a little bit of overlap, and this move could be on. He will have the outside for the hairpin, but we'll see how he can play this one.
Yeah, how hard does Faulkner fight it? That hard, it seems. A bit of contact with Flock stymies the run coming out of Miller Corner, but Flock with a slightly better exit gets the inside for Siberia, and move done. Flock now back up into 4th place, and considering that his main competitor in the form of Jordan Malcolm is now effectively out of the running with having to take that mystery pit stop. This is a big chance for Flock to try and get the win here. Pat Oliver versus Luke Swan, meanwhile. It is Porsche versus Mercedes here. The Iridium car trying to get the best run through MG he possibly can. And he might just be able to line it up coming onto the front straight here as well.
Yeah, it looked like Swan had to pull that up a little bit to avoid going into the back of Oliver there, but I think he's a little bit too far back at the moment, but if he can keep on that rear bumper of that Mercedes, definitely got a chance here. There's a big gaggle of cars up ahead as well. We've got the battle for 15th is on as Noble, after getting his repairs done, is back out there. He's left a nice pink stamp on the wall on the right there, but he's back in the fight, and that's a nice little pack there, bit of fun for 15th. Not too many points up for grabs, but there's plenty of pride and ego to be at stake.
That's a big move from Josh Maynard and the BMW, and they're around, and Mark Noble gets sent off the track. So that's both KRF cars now with heavy damage in this race. Those KRF McLarens looking decidedly substandard. And that's very unfortunate. Noble did nothing wrong there. Looked like it was just a huge move by the BMW that went awry. Very aggressive dive from Josh Maynard.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for those guys. As we cut to the replay here, he sent it from pretty far back. There's not much overlap there. That's definitely going to be a penalty from the stewards. It is a bit late in the race now, so potentially it'll be a points penalty. But yeah, that's a bit of a botched one there, if I'll say so. So we got a couple of cars going side by side here as we come down into MG.
It's Craig Mason versus Mitch Hobbs, and Mitch gets the run. That's a nice dive to the inside, cleanly executed move. The Simblacks Mercedes doesn't have much of a response. It is still on for 5th as well. Benjamin Faulkner getting passed by Sebastian Flock some time ago. And now he's facing off against Russell Pepperell, who's being very aggressive over the curbs in the Mercedes. Fire it towards the inside? Maybe not for Russell Pepperell. You don't want to take as direct a route to the apex when there's a big orange Aston Martin in the way.
Oh no, that's right, but he's quite close coming down to the hairpin as well, as we've got a group in front of them battling for that second place. Lacassis is currently leading that pack, but this is a nice little fight here as well. Could be anyone's really. The cars are so close together. They've just got to pick their moment, and when you're Luthwaite in the middle, you're probably in the worst place you could be, is in the middle of a 3-car battle. You got to try and hold off the guy behind, and of course try and get the move done from the car in front.
Yeah, and it looks like defense is going to be on Aidan Luthwaite's mind here. Sebastian Flock, the hard charger, coming back up the field after his unfortunate off into turn 1. Very aggressive exit from Luthwaite here. I think he's just trying to keep Flock behind by positioning his car more towards the inside there. You get on the throttle earlier through Lukey Heights, and that's the natural line you assume coming into MG. It's good for defending, and it looks like he's been able to keep it up through the final couple of corners. But Flock, we know how fast he is. He started second. He wants to finish second. It is the final lap for these guys with 40 seconds remaining on the clock. So Flock needs to get these moves done now.
Yeah, Flock will be very hungry to get these done and follow up with another P2 after last week. So we got the meanwhile.
Flock's just hit Aidan Luthwaite off at Southern Loop.
Oh no.
Sorry to talk over you there, Dean. That's pretty significant there. Might be a penalty coming Sebastian Flock's way after that. Aiden Luthwaite was running so strong, and unfortunately Flock, I think, just a bit over-aggressive coming into Southern Loop. There was half a door open on the inside, but the door needs to be fully open before you commit to the move.
Yeah, you can't walk through a half-open door, Reese, that's for sure. And that's a bit unfortunate way to end that fight, and I think we'll definitely be seeing a penalty handed out there. There's a fight still on here between Oliver and Swan as well for P6. Swan's just holding him off at the moment. These are some critical points in this event. You know, like every point matters and every position matters. These guys are fighting tooth and nail all the way down the grid.
Yeah, they are. GT4's been very competitive. As to the inside then goes, did Pat Oliver. It's the last couple of corners here. And a final defense from the Iridium Porsche. Luke Swan manages to keep him behind. Nicely done. Up the front, though, Matthew Pignata in the other Alfa Venturi Mercedes. He did not look back from the moment there was that problem for Jordan Malcolm, winning the GT4 class in race 1. And now we see whether or not Craig Mason is successful in trying to find his way past Mitch Hobbs. It's a good run to the line for these two drag race, but Mitch Hobbs is just going to defend that position by the smallest of margins. TCR, meanwhile, there's not much left to be said for the lead, but it's certainly still on for second. Hanmer, Bradbury, and Henry. Robert Henry in the Civic, fellow Civic in the form of Robbie Bradbury, both trying to chase down that Elantra up ahead. But I think it's going to be a battle of the Hondas here coming into MG. Robert Henry, he was a bit too hard on the throttle coming out of Lukey Heights. A visit to the grass means that move is probably not going to happen. The final corner has been navigated for Brenton Hobson. Synergy Sim Racing taking another victory in the TCR class, and Brenton Hobson extends his championship lead with another dominant performance.
Yeah, he was very dominant in that race. He did not take a single step off the track at all. He was perfect. Same as we saw last week. He won by quite the margin last week as well. So he's still on a battle here for 11th and 12th between Shelley and Hearn as they're coming down into the final corner. Did Hearn just go a little bit wide there?
I think so.
He's just gone straight off the track, unfortunately. I hope he can get it back on and not lose any more spots from that, which he's managed to do. But he was definitely hungry for that extra place, which we love to see towards the end of any race for any position.
We do indeed. Well, here are your unofficial results then. Pignata winning by 5 seconds from Nick Lacassis. Ben Faulkner completing the podium for Race on Oz. He'll be happy with that result. Sebastian Flock finishing 4th. It could have been a second or maybe even a win. Maybe he'll have a better go of it in race 2. Pepperell rounding out the top 5. Swan, Oliver, Deere, Luthwaite and Hobbs round out the top 10. Aiden Luthwaite will be stinging after the move from Sebastian Flock coming into turn 2. Craig Mason finishes in 11th with Alex Schuler just behind him. It was a gap of 3/10 at the end between those guys. Ryan Green a couple seconds ahead of Linton Wills and Damian Cross, with Taylor Oakes, Jordan Malcolm finishing in 17th place, and that's not the result our pole sitter would have wanted. Robertson, Buchan and Maynard round out the top 20. Mark Noble, unfortunately, with a crash, and Brett O'Keefe retiring ultimately after his contact with the wall. And we can confirm that Jordan Malcolm started with qualifying fuel there, Dean, so yeah, that'll sting. Yeah, we've all done it.
We've all been there. But as we go to the TCR results, we saw Brenton Hobson absolutely dominate, winning by 12 seconds over the next guy, Tyson Hanmer, in P2. We had that battle went right to the end between Hanmer, Bradbury and Henry. Brady Baldwin taking out P5, Damon Mulqueen P6, both the Synergy Sim Racing. Reese Tamanui P7, Brody Watts P8, Simon Gorolski P9 and Garen Batten taking out the final place in the top 10. Edward Shelley taking P11, Trevor Hearn taking P12, and that's why he didn't lose a position at the end there, because Stephen Banks was a lap behind, and then Scott Griffiths, of course, 5 laps down after that major damage we saw earlier.
Yeah, indeed. Scott Griffiths, the most unlucky, I think, of the TCR crew here tonight. But warm-up is over in between the sessions, and as you mentioned at the start of the broadcast, Dean, the grid carries over from race 1. So basically, the results as we read them out are exactly how they're going to be starting. What I'm interested to see in this GT4 field is whether or not Jordan Malcolm will be able to elevate himself up through the field. He's easily the fastest car out there. This time he will have race fuel in the car, and we'll see what he can properly do.
Yeah, that Oliver's helmet, it's a watermelon. That's fantastic.
That's great.
We love to see that. Yeah, but as we were saying, Malcolm, he's got a lot of ground to make up. He's got some great pace in that vehicle of his, and I feel like, you know, qualifying pace and race pace are two very different things, but he did show that he had a lot of race pace until he ran out of fuel. So I don't think he'll be making that mistake for this race. I think he's probably triple checked his fuel numbers, and we should see a good fight from him from deep into the grid.
Certainly should, as we see the KRF guys unfortunately taking up the back row in the GT4 class after the issues that they had over the course of the first race. Hobson will likely be the favourite to win in TCR once more. Hanma will have to defend from Bradbury and Henry, who looked very fast in the Civics at the very end of the race. Baldwin and Mulqueen in the Synergy Sim Racing Elantras, they didn't have as good of a race as they wanted, so they will be looking for some extra results here tonight. Reese Tamanui made up a lot of spots, didn't he, in the first race, starting alongside Brody Watts. Gorowski, Batten, Shelley, those are drivers who will be looking to make something a little better out of this second race, particularly in the case of Edward Shelley. He was the car that was turned around at turn 1 on lap 1. But Scott Griffiths, we should see a little bit more out of him if all goes well. So on this formation lap, we wait for the tour around the circuit to be completed before the race gets off to a start. News from race control, Dean. Sebastian Flock has been given a post-race drive-through penalty for the contact with Aidan Luthwaite. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much a post-race drive-through is worth, but that is going to affect his placing for race 1.
Yeah, that's going to hurt him a little bit, but yeah, I think that's definitely justified. Perhaps they're going to make him serve it as soon as this race starts, or it's just a time penalty of what the transit time is for pit lane. But either way, I think that penalty is definitely deserved. So he'll have some ground to make up either way.
Yeah, and Sebastian Flock would agree with you there. He actually said in the text chat, he asked, pit lane start for me or something? Deserved. So he recognised his part to play in that incident.
We love to see we love to see the sportsmanship, but we've just been told that he's had a technical issue where pop-ups come off his screen, and that's what's caused him to make contact. That's actually happened to me once before. My trading paints crashed and during a Sebring 12 hour. That was really fun to try and deal with. But I know exactly what he's dealing with, but yeah, Apple's software manager doing an update for him, which is not ideal.
Yeah, okay, that's no good at all. Well, we'll see what Sebastian Flock can make of this, and hopefully he stays pop-up free and tries to redeem himself with a clean run to a potential win here. But it's going to be difficult to beat Matthew Pignata starting at the front of this field. And he has gone early. The apex of the final corner is the acceleration point for the 445 Alpha Venturi Mercedes. Green flag flies, and the GT4 class is ready to go once more. Sebastian Flock getting a good start and trying to nab third off Ben Faulkner. Outside through turn 1, becomes inside for Southern Loop. We have a car off. That's bad.
Oh.
Matthew Deere spinning across the track, and that has taken who is that? Alex Schuler off as well. Looks like Flock's off too as the GT4 field gets started. What on earth happened to Sebastian Flock?
Oh no, that is not ideal. They're coming off the track there and coming straight back on. We've seen that countless times at Phillip Island. Flock, I'm not sure what's happened to him, but he's been dealt another bad hand, it looks like, and and he's going to be trying to claw this one back from very far back as we go back to the TCRs. They're all overtaking each other. There's cars everywhere at the moment. It looks like Batten got slowed down a little bit and got stuck on the outside there, and that's put him all the way back to the back of the field.
Looks like, other than that, a reasonably clean start, at least through the first couple of corners. Trevor Hearn trying to do something about that with a move up the inside of David Mulqueen and gets spun across the front of him on the exit of Miller.
Oh no, we're just seeing it all unfold here. Is this race worth double points or something? I'm not sure, but everyone's a bit more hungry. I don't think it is, but they're all a bit hungry to gain a few spots. Oh, as we see another car go around at the front.
No.
Make that 3. All teammates as well for Alpha Venturi Racing. All in the sand trap on the outside of the final corner. And Mitch Hobbs is going to try and get that one turned around, but he is missing a vital component of his rear wing.
Yeah, and it looks like a little bit of smoke coming out of the back of the car as well, though that might be dust getting kicked up by the rear wheels. Also saw Reese Tamanui have big contact with Trevor Hearn on the exit of Siberia in the TCR class, and he went straight into the barrier. So here's the issue for Matthew Deere. He just went a little deep here into turn 1. No, it was contact from Aidan Luthwaite, and then he couldn't get it stopped in time, couldn't get it under control. And that's very unfortunate. Meanwhile, Flock, he just went a bit deep into Southern Loop, it seems, and caught the grass on the outside.
Yeah, it's all happening. And there's just incidents compounding onto each other. We do see that quite a lot in sim racing. The view's not quite as much as what you get in real life, and of course the consequences aren't as much with the damage. So you kind of take a little bit more risk when you're trying to get through a big incident like that. But Matthew Deere, dare we say it? Oh dear.
Oh dear indeed. Well done, says Jay Kennedy in the background. We got our pun out of the way for this broadcast, and now we will see how everything works out at the lead of GT4, because Matthew Pignata once again seems untroubled in the lead of this race, though Nick Lacassis is making sure that he's being kept honest. Luke Swan, the other Iridium Porsche, very unfortunate that Alex Schuler got involved as he did, and that's a problem for Louis Robertson in the Simblacks Mercedes. There's plenty of damage to the front of that car. Looks a bit cleaner coming out of MG just before. What happened to him? The rear wheels spun up and then the traction control kicked in? Looks like it. That's very unfortunate for him, and I think he already had some damage to the front. Trying his... Oh, okay. Yeah, so invisible walls getting you there, unfortunately. Look out for the change in grass, everybody, if you're watching. That's a good lesson to be learned around Phillip Island.
Oh, yeah, and I think he definitely would have had some damage prior to that, because there's no way the rear end of that car comes out like that. But we've got Bradley leading, Baldwin and Bradbury fighting over P4 here. They're nose to tail as we come around the southern loop, and I think potentially Baldwin's going to be looking to set up a move down the inside if it's not defended. As we see, yeah, there's sort of half defensive line for the number 10, and can Baldwin get it stuck around the inside for the next corner? Maybe he's got a little bit of a run coming into Siberia. Go defensive again, and I think this will be for another day. This move.
Yeah, unless the move can be made coming into Lukey Heights or into MG as well. You see that Baldwin is desperate here to get past Bradbury, and the door's half open again on the inside there, but nothing doing for the time being. Tell you what, Robert Henry's had a pretty good run, hasn't he? Just up ahead of this trio. Remember, he was behind Tyson Hanmer at the finish of race 1, and he's starting to drive away from this fight. I don't think it's demonstrated any better than in TCR. You see it in all categories, but in TCR, it's particularly noticeable. When you're battling with another car, you actually end up slowing each other down. So if you can break free of a battling pack behind you, you can certainly gain a ton of time. Lap complete here for Baldwin, and this is where the slipstream is at its highest coming into turn 1. There's not much he can do versus Bradbury right now, but if the Civic has some problems through Southern Loop, or if Tyson Hanmer has problems coming out of turn 1 for that matter, this could potentially be a twofer for Brady Baldwin.
Yeah, Brady's licking his lips right now. He could be on here. He's been all over the back of Bradbury in front of him, and Hanma is just going to be the next car in his little eating frenzy, where he's looking on the outside here of Bradbury here. I don't think he can get it done around the outside of Honda, but he's looking at it for the switchback, which will leave him on the outside of Siberia, but he hasn't got the overlap yet. He's still all over him like a bad smell. It's nose to tail all the way around. And like you said, Reese, like this will be slowing both of them down. These cars rely quite a lot on the momentum. As we cut to Jordan Malcolm, who's already up to P7. It's been quite the recovery drive for him so far, Reese.
Yeah, he holds the fastest lap and just improved on it as well in the GT4 class. He's showing supreme pace in the 1.9 McLaren, and he's trying his best to get up to the back of Aiden Luthwaite. That battle in TCR is still going on the bottom of your screen. Baldwin still tapping Morse code on the back of Robbie Bradbury's car. And he's a little bit closer this time as they come onto the start-finish straight. I don't think Bradbury's going to have much of a slipstream from Hanma, so he is vulnerable to an attack from Baldwin.
What do you think he's trying to say on the back bumper with Morse code, Reese? I think he's saying, get out the way, I want to get on with this race. He's been nose to tail with him for about 3 laps now. He's absolutely desperate to get past him. He's definitely the faster car, but Bradbury's just keeping it that little bit quick enough and taking the right lines where he just can't find an entry point to make a move. As we see him coming through Southern Loop, he's getting on the inside. He's got the overlap now. He's just got to keep it. Yeah, that's it. And now he's got the run onto the straight. Well, no, he doesn't. Pardon me. Still going.
Quite. It was a tighter exit for Baldwin. So there's not much he can do to get past at this stage. Stays outside as Bradbury goes defensive, and this is exactly the same position that we were in last lap.
Do you think that Bradbury can keep this up for 12 minutes? I would really like to see that for the whole race, but I really think it's a matter of time before we see something kick off here, whether it's a move or some sort of contact or controversy. It's all going to kick off soon, I think. As we're looking up at the GT4s as well, there's quite the pack there. That's Malcolm that we're looking at. Sorry, Luthwaite at the moment, getting through on that. I think that might be a lap car.
Yeah, that's Matthew Deere, who's still on the racetrack, trying to at least get a finish on the board and potentially some points. He lets them all go without incident. But now it is a true 3-way fight. Benjamin Faulkner in the Aston Martin, Aiden Luthwaite in the Mercedes, and Jordan Malcolm in the McLaren. 3 iconic brands racing around Phillip Island. You love to see it. Slight bit of contact from Malcolm on the back of Luthwaite, and that's, if anything, giving him a little bit of a leg up to try and get past Benjamin Faulkner. Meanwhile, on the bottom of your screen, Brady Baldwin trying again on Robbie Bradbury, but this is a great defense, it turns out, from Bradbury in that number 10.
Yeah, and Hanma is really enjoying this battle in his mirrors. He's slowly pulling away, but we've got some overlap now, and this is some real overlap. We see what the run's like, as it looks like, yeah, he's got the run on him. So I think this move might be as good as done, as long as Baldwin can keep it going around the outside here of Bradbury. But no, he can't. It's still going.
Faulkner also lost a position there to Aiden Luthwaite. Nice move at MG, and now Jordan Malcolm is lining him up. 6th gear in the McLaren, top speed of 254 k's an hour. Slightly wide for the Race on Oz Aston Martin. The McLaren only has to get a better exit out of Southern Loop, and the move will be done. Man, these two battles at once on screen becoming a bit hard to keep track of what is going on, because man, it's absolutely going off here. Defensive again from Bradbury in the TCR class, and that is another whack on the rear from Brady Baldwin, and a flash of the lights. He's probably saying, I can has position, please. Jordan Malcolm, meanwhile, can has position. Benjamin Faulkner yields to him in Miller.
Sorry, Reese, that split me. That made me laugh a bit. But yeah, he's trying everything now. He's flashing the lights. He's doing whatever he can. Yeah, it would be very frustrating for Baldwin at the moment. And he's really trying everything. But Bradbury's just doing an absolute stellar job to defend him and hold him off. The gap is a little bit bigger this time around Southern Loop. Perhaps we're looking at saving tyres and cooling them down a little bit to have another go in a few minutes.
Yeah, indeed. It's very easy to overheat the fronts in TCR. They are front-wheel drive after all, and about 350 horsepower going through those front wheels. So you want to look after your front end. And if you've just made a move, then your car's likely going to be a little slower. You want to try and balance a bit more on the rear coming into corners, a bit more rotation in the car. The GT4s don't have that issue. Rear-wheel drive, they can be front or mid-engined, and they certainly have a nice balance. So trying to look after the tyres, not as much of an issue in these cars as it is in TCR. So this lead for Matthew Pignata still showing no signs of being lost, but you can see that Lacassis is doing a phenomenal job of trying to stay in touch with him. The gap's only a second now. We are 8 laps into the race, and we have 8 minutes left.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time for Lacassis to catch up here, but Pignata's showing that his pace is just unmatched at the moment, and he's slowly pulling away from this. But Lacassis, you know, all it takes is one mistake, and he could be all over Pignata. It's really still wide open. There's still plenty of time for anything to happen, really.
Yeah, and of course, Matthew Pignata is not infallible, though he has shown to be the most consistent and fast driver in the GT4 class so far in 2024. Meanwhile, battle further back for 14th, Josh Maynard, who unfortunately turned around a car in race 1. He's got Pat Oliver for very close company, one of the Alfa Venturi Mercedes who we saw off the circuit earlier. Is there anything that the BMW can do? Is there anything the McLaren can do as well? Jordan Malcolm trying to get into the top 5. He'll be disappointed. The night has not gone his way. Started on pole position in the GT4 class for race 1. And the best I think he can hope for here is a top 5, maybe even a podium if there's a problem for drivers ahead. Here comes Pat Oliver, meanwhile. Can he get 14th place? The outside of turn 1 isn't always the best place to do it, but he's got it done. Beautiful.
Yeah, that takes some plums to get that done around the outside there. You've got to put a lot of trust on the driver on the inside. But, you know, if you're still carrying on side by side at the Southern Loop, you've obviously got the inside. So that sometimes the risk is worth it, but he just got it done around the outside anyway. No need for the extra steps.
Yeah, lovely stuff indeed. Well, keeping our eye on TCR here, Brady Baldwin is now facing off against Damon Mulqueen, his Synergy Sim Racing teammate, who's certainly looking quick here. Up 1 position was Damon Mulqueen. Edward Shelley behind, up 5 spots as well. And I think that's obviously including Matthew Deere and Craig Mason, the 2 GT4s that had issues. Meanwhile, there's a redress order for Linton Wills for contact on Alex Schuler back on lap 8, and that has been served. Race control obviously being kept busy here tonight as Mulqueen goes up the inside of Brady Baldwin, coming into Miller and gets it done beautifully. Mulqueen, an incredibly quick TCR driver. He was very competitive early on in the Southern Cross Esports Elantra Summer Series. Meanwhile, Sebastian Flock trying to make up places. This is Cole Buchan here. He's going around the outside of turn 1 on. That's another beautiful move done by a Mercedes. It does seem that the fast corners really suit that car.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Mercedes, not only for the sound of it, it's just beautiful, but yeah, it seems to be the dominant car this round and also last round, which is interesting because Gilles Villeneuve did not have a lot of high-speed corners. So yeah, I think the Mercedes is definitely showing its power here as we see another battle going on with the Mercedes all over the back of, what do you know, another Porsche. We've got Pepperell chasing down, I could not see the car in front,
Luke
sorry,
Swan.
but it's Luke Swan. He's all over him as well. There's a lot of really close battles happening, but not a lot of moves being made. It's just one of those things. It's really tricky to stay right behind the car in front of you at this track to line up the move on the corners that you can make them. And Pignata is losing that gap a little bit with Lacassis. And
Whoa! Okay.
we spoke too soon. He's just gone straight into the sand as well. He must be pushing like mad. It's not over yet, though. I think he's obviously lost a couple of seconds there on him. But when I say it's not over, he's got Luke Swan and Pepperell for company. Is he having an issue? He's slowed down quite a lot there. I wonder if he's... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yielding to them on the inside of turn 1. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, potentially, he might be having some sort of, I don't know, it's a hardware issue, but he's right back on the back of him now anyway. So I wonder if maybe he had a slowdown or something that he didn't serve. I'm not 100% sure, or didn't get back on the track quick enough and was trying to take off on the grass. He's getting down the inside of Pepperell here anyway. He's saying, I don't care. I'll just take the spots back anyway. I'll take my P2. Thank you very much. We'll get back up there in a minute because he's P3 now.
Yeah, I think Lacassis, here's the on-board. I don't think it was a slowdown. I think just due to the understeer he suffered going that far off the track, he lost enough pace that he saw Pepperell and Swan coming up behind him and figured it's probably safest to just yield to them on the way into turn 1. If he stayed on the power, then they would have come up on him right at the apex, and that would have been a very nasty time for all of them.
That's some great sportsmanship there as well. You have to admire that because personally, I might have been on the fence a little bit and said, nah, you can go around me. But, that's really good sportsmanship and it's going to save his race because you don't know what's going to happen behind you. They could run straight into the back of you, not expecting that sort of pace. So it's a smart move there. I think he's done quite well, but unfortunately he has lost out on that battle for first. But Lacassis is probably going to be a little bit closer to Swan in the next couple of minutes, but we've got Pepperell all over the back of him now, so it's all happening up and down the top 5.
Yeah, we also checked in with Brady Baldwin for a couple of moments in TCR. He's losing further time and is actually in danger of contact from Edward Shelley. Has also picked up some damage somewhere along the line. So trouble for Brady Baldwin, who has now lost top 5 in TCR. Is there anything that Nicholas Lacassis can do to pass Luke Swan here? TCR lap traffic, that's Scott Griffiths, who's still running a bit far down the order in TCR. He's now a lap down on the GT4 class. It's a nice exit for Lacassis from Siberia. Lukey Heights, a difficult corner to get a move done into, but you can set up a move into MG coming through it, and it gets even easier if the car ahead makes your job a little easier for you. Swan wide in Lukey Heights, has to go defensive through MG, gets it done nicely, and will stay ahead coming through the second last corner. Lacassis, I think, saw that coming and decided just a little bit of a lift. Meanwhile, Tyson Hanmer in the number 18, 3rd and 4th in TCR here. Robbie Bradbury chasing him down. Mulqueen is making up some good time too. 1 minute 38.5 as white flag flies for the GT4 class. Meanwhile, compared to that 138.5, it's a 138.3 for Bradbury and a 138.8 for Hanmer, and he has to yield to Bradbury at least on the outside coming through Miller, but keeps the position only just. Meanwhile, Russell Pepperell having a go at Nicholas Lacassis. This is the move for 3rd in GT4 as they come up to Miller. There's nothing that Lacassis can do here. Has to get on the brakes early, try and figure out something to do in the last half of the lap.
Yeah, and it's lucky for Lacassis because he's got the best opportunity to come up at Lukey Heights in Siberia, and MG, where he can make a move there. So you see Hanmer still in front of Bradbury. He's given him the inside line, but he's still ahead. Hanmer's going to hold on to that one. I think it's fairly safe to say. We're really close there in the GT4. Apologies, still got one more lap after this one. Getting confused. There's too much going on with the GT4s and the TCRs for my little brain, apparently.
Well, it is the final lap for the GT4s, and looks to me like Matthew Pignata, once again, no one could overcome him. The battle for second just making their way past Simon Gorolski in the TCR. Pignata winning both races here at Phillip Island. It's as close as you want between Luke Swan and Russell Pepperell, who will complete the podium in the second race. Meanwhile, Aidan Luthwaite manages to hold off Jordan Malcolm for the last position in the top 5. Very nicely done, but the race is still not over in TCR.
Yeah, Bradbury's looking to set up a move here on Hanma, and he's looking down the inside at Honda as Mulqueen's coming around the outside. So there's another guy's joined the party in Mulqueen, and they're all going at it here. This could end really exciting here. Is that Mulqueen's got through? No, sorry, different Synergy Sim Racing car. But Mulqueen's got past Bradbury, and there's another battle going on behind as well.
Yeah, it's Edward Shelley and Stephen Banks who are trying to sort themselves out for 7th now that Mulqueen's passed them. Now that Baldwin hasn't been able to be overcome by them. Waiting for the last few meters of the race for Brenton Hobson. He's coming out of the final corner. Shelley holding off Banks through the last turn. There goes Hobson across the line. Another double win, this time in the TCR class for Synergy Sim Racing. Is there anything that Tyson Hanmer can do to hold off Damon Mulqueen coming up to the line? Looks like he's just going to keep him behind, and Stephen Banks ultimately getting it done on Robbie Bradbury for 7th spot. My goodness, that was a very hectic night indeed in GTC.
Oh yeah, we didn't know where to look or what to say. There was a lot going on. Pignata, he's once again got another win for the GT4s, and well done to him. He had some great pace all night, and he'll be keeping that white banner. And then Brenton Hobbo, also again keeping that white banner. He's going to keep that championship lead, and he's had another great week where he's just ran away with it. Yeah, indeed. Seems like nothing could stop Brenton Hobson, and nothing could stop Matthew Pignata. Another 5-second gap. I think that might be the race 1 results there. So we'll get those swapped around. I mean, at least Matthew Pignata was the same. Luke Swan, 6.8 seconds behind, even more of a winning margin. Russell Pepperell and Nick Lacassis fighting to the end over 3rd. Luthwaite holding off Jordan Malcolm for the top 5. Ben Faulkner, Damien Cross, BJ O'Keefe and Taylor Oakes rounding out the top 10 here. Much better race for O'Keefe this time by. He did an excellent job. Sebastian Flock, meanwhile, 11th place in the end after a bit of a scrappy race from 2nd place in the championship coming into this round. And Mark Noble not being able to make up a huge amount of time from starting at the rear. Louis Robertson, though, facing some issues in car 501. The 2 retirements from GT4, well, 1 retirement in the form of Craig Mason. Matthew Deere, unfortunately involved in the crash coming through turn 1 into Southern Loop. Yeah, that was a crazy one. And we go to the TCR results, and yeah, like we said, Hobbo, another dominant performance, winning by 5.5 seconds. Robert Henry, not too far behind him. And then we had Hanma, Mulqueen and Bradbury all fighting for that P3 on the last few laps there, which is really great to see. Brady Baldwin, P6, Stephen Banks, Edward Shelley and Garen Batten, again, all together for Pacific Esports 7, 8 and 9. And then Brodie Watts rounding out the top 10. Simon Gorolski finished a lap down, unfortunately. Scott Griffiths, Trevor Hearn and Reece Tamanui round out the final results, but no DNFs for the TCR, which was good to see. Yeah, indeed. Good stuff for our GTC field here tonight. Well, round 2 for GTC is complete, but we still have the V8s coming up later on after the break. Before we go, I think we should have a chat to our class winners. First off, we'll go to Matthew Pignata in the GT4 machinery. Well, Matthew, that was, I mean, from the outside, looked like a pretty easy night for you, but it must have been stressful in the opening laps at least.
Yeah, definitely. Both the guys in P2 on the start of both races kept me pretty honest, so I had to have my head down, but yeah, good to just at least keep a consistent pace so I could hold the lead.
Indeed you did. It seems like the Mercedes is suiting you very well, as it has in previous seasons. What's drawn you to that car?
Well, it is favourite car in real life, so can't pass up the opportunity to give it a go in a racing game.
Well, championship lead for you coming out of round 1, and you're going to extend it coming out of round 2 with your closest rivals having some very inconsistent results. Start of the season is looking pretty good, so I suppose now it's a case of trying to consolidate that lead.
Yeah, definitely going to keep putting in the practice, try and obviously hold the championship lead, get as close to my rivals as I can if I don't win the race. So hopefully be still right behind them in P2 if I'm not P1.
Well, congratulations for your win, Matthew. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Obviously, thanking all the team boys once again in the voice call, giving support. Had a bit of fun during those races, so it was good fun to be talking with them.
Excellent stuff. Matthew Pignata winning the GT4 class tonight, and TCR, once again, Dean, belonged to Brenton Hobson.
Yeah, Hobbo, well done on the race, mate. Another dominant victory. Same again. What was going through your mind as you were leading the field by multiple seconds every lap?
Thank you. Yeah, when you're in the lead like that, you kind of got to be a little bit careful not to stop paying attention and just drive off the track. It's a little difficult sometimes to make sure you keep yourself with your eye in all the time when you don't have anyone around you. But in saying that, it was not an easy drive tonight. The TCR at Phillip Island is not probably the easiest combination, and I think I thought going in that the Audi was probably going to struggle, although it seemed to go all right tonight.
It didn't really look like it was struggling from our end. Did you have any sort of setup tips you had for the race leading into this one to try and make it as easy as possible for yourself?
Not personally. I don't really know anything about setups in these cars particularly. I'm very fortunate to have a good teammate in Damon Mulqueen, who is very well schooled in these cars, as you guys know, and he's been very, very kind to me, and I've been fortunate enough that he's put some work into doing a setup for me in this car while I've been very busy the last couple of weeks. So, big shout out to him for helping me out with that, and he obviously got it hooked up all right tonight for me. So yeah, a big thanks to Damon for that. That was really good.
Sounds like you guys will be sharing some prize money at the end of the season, maybe. But is there anyone else you'd like to thank before we send you off tonight?
Well, obviously, yeah, Damon and the other guys in the team as well. Brady Baldwin tonight had a spin with us, and Scotty Griffiths was back again, which was cool to see. He didn't have a great night tonight, unfortunately, but it's always good fun to have Scotty back out on track with us. Sponsors, I guess, on the team: Watercraft Performance Center, Works Racing Components, Dr. Epoxy, and all the rest of them that help us out and make the wheels turn around for us every week. And of course, all the people involved with running a league and giving us something here to do on a Friday night, and you good fine selves as well for putting on a broadcast.
Oh, it's so sweet. Thanks, Hubbo. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Well done tonight, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Brenton Hobson there, winner of the TCR class in GTC, which concludes for tonight, but the night is by no means over. The V8s are coming up next here on SimSpeed TV. Stay with us.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV. V8SCOPS supports for 2024. Round 2 from Phillip Island has concluded for the GTC, GT4 and TCR. Now we go for the third class involved in supports action, the V8s, the Australian touring cars from 2014. It's me, Reese Gardner, with Dean Hunt alongside me in the comms box. Dean, once again, we've got a 15-minute and 20-minute sprint race format with grids carrying over. This is going to be interesting indeed. They're going to be completing these races at quite a faster rate compared to what we saw in GT4 and TCR.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of a pace difference here with the V8s, and we were absolutely treated last week with Mahoney and Gilbert going at it for half an hour in that race last round. But this round it'll be a couple of quick short fire ones, and the gloves will be coming off, and the boys will be wanting to make up positions as quick as they can, and it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Joe Mahoney taking the round win at Montreal. Aaron Gilbert in second. He is the reigning champion, is Aaron Gilbert, so he's going to be looking for something more here at Phillip Island to try and take that lead away. It was a very close and very controversial race between him and Joe Mahoney at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Ben Christensen doing well to climb up the field last round. He's awarded with 4th place in the championship ahead of Daniel Stevens, and aside from that, I think we've got a lot of drivers who just didn't really showcase their pace as they probably should have at Montreal. Dean, it was a very tough track. Maybe they'll have a better chance here at Phillip Island.
Yeah, Montreal is a really tricky one for any cars with any sort of no downforce, no traction control, no ABS, no assist whatsoever. These cars are not easy to drive at the best of times, and on a circuit like that where you're bouncing across curbs and everything every 5 seconds, it's pretty easy to get out of sorts. But when we come to a track like Phillip Island, like we said earlier, it's a national treasure. Aussies, we love this track. Unfortunately, the real life V8s are sort of on and off racing here. We're only treated to MotoGP once a year for the main sort of events, but I think the best thing about it is we still got it in the sim world, so we can watch these guys take the gloves off and absolutely go at it tonight, and it's going to be a big one. I'm very excited for this race, or these races.
Yeah, I am too. Tell you what, MFR having a good run to start things off here in qualifying. Gavin Cox currently the fastest out there at the moment, but only 0.06 of a second ahead of championship leader Joe Mahoney. Aaron Gilbert down in 7th spot right now, has to make up 0.2 to get things done here in the qualifying session. And considering that it's a heat format, it'll be a hard cut at the end of qualifying. If you want to get out there and get your next lap in, your final lap in, you better exit the pits right now. Otherwise, you won't be able to make it to the line.
Yeah, you need to get out there because, like you say, there's no finishing your lap once the checkered's out, and that's it. It cuts you off, and we've only got we've got 4 tenths between P1 and P8, so it's going to be a pretty tight grid tonight. Gilbert, like we said, he's probably got a little bit of pace to make up. Perhaps he's done a couple of banker laps, and now he's going to really go for it now. Try and get a couple tenths out of his time. But Mahoney up in P2, he's only 0.06 of a second behind Gavin Cox. So this battle for the pole position is well and truly on, and we don't have the live sectors or anything, but I would probably bet my bottom dollar that Aaron Gilbert is going to make up a couple of places at the end of this lap.
Oh, it's going to be difficult for him to do that, though, having to make his way past Hayden Green, who is down in 22nd in qualifying right now. Aaron will be hoping that he has what it takes to get a final lap on the board here. 2 minutes left in the session. I think if he doesn't get this next lap done, he's going to have a lot of trouble getting to the line in time for his final lap to count. He did have to go a little offline coming into Miller Corner, the hairpin. He is faster in Sector 1 than Gavin Cox, but it's pretty much neck and neck between these two right now, and he's got to think about Joe Mahoney as well. Is the final sector going to be with our reigning V8 Series champion? Just a little left through the final corner, 5th gear, snatch 6th on the way out. And through goes Aaron Gilbert to the start-finish line. What's this lap going to be? 129.6, and that is not going to be enough. And there's not enough time for him to get around to the line again. So Gilbert will start no better than 7th here. Dean Alessi behind him on one of his final laps. Alessi doing very well to do a 1:29.3. It seems that Middle Finger Racing have come ready to fight.
Yeah, they are definitely ready to go. Mahoney here is coming around the final corner. We can see if he gets that 6,000th of a second. He's got a little bit of toe from his teammate here. We'll see where 30.18. So not good enough. Not better than his last one. He hasn't made an improvement there. But yeah, I don't think many drivers are going to be setting any more times now, and we can look at getting this race started. Pretty excited to see Gilbert try and make his way through the field then, you know, like qualifying's not everything. It's a pretty short race. I think he'll be getting a little bit aggressive at the start.
Yeah, true. Well, practicing a pit stop if he ever needs to do one. Of course, the no escape rule is in effect in qualifying, so there's extra incentive there to go for the pits. Qualifying is over. The session ticks to 0, and we get ready for the first race of the night. 15 minutes coming up here, and Gavin Cox for Middle Finger Racing has pole position, starting alongside championship leader Joe Mahoney. Matt Haywood in the Simblacks number 47 will start alongside Dean Alessi, with Richard Mayer in car 948 starting alongside Daniel Stevens. Aaron Gilbert, the reigning champion, out of 7th, starting alongside Troy Allen. Gilbert's teammate Henry King starts in 9th alongside Phil Dalton. Race on Oz, bookending the top 10, Dean.
Yeah, as we see Dylan Gray for the top P11. He didn't have the best outcome last week, but I think he's got some ground to make up now. Sean van der Meulen in P12. Chris Pellett, my teammate, P13. Isaac Edwards for another race on Oz entry, P14. Colin Bruns, another middle finger guy on P15, and Sean Slater, P16. Damien Cross, P17, and Tyson Hamner, P18. Couple of double ups there. Stephen Banks for Pacific Esports, P19, and Dan Murko, P20. BJ O'Keefe, another double up, P21, and John Courtney, P22. Hayden Green for Full Send Motorsport in P23, and Blake Fitzpatrick, P24. And that rounds out the 24 grid.
Indeed it does. Nice field of V8s getting ready for the start here. 30 seconds remain on the grid timer. And don't forget, the Proven Energy Porsche Mission Rs are at the ready in the pit lane if there is a crash and cars can't make it back to the pits under their own power. A standing start for the V8s as per usual. Last couple of cars get onto the grid, and now it's just a case of waiting. Let's see who gets the best run, putting that 600 plus horsepower down to the tarmac. Revs rise, and we get ready for the green flag to fly here in the V8s. Round 2 at Phillip Island is go, and Mahoney has not gone on the grid and is collected by the Middle Finger Commodore. That has caused chaos in the midfield. Colin Bruns is around. Who was that collected him? It was Troy Allen. And oh my lord, Sean Slater with issues as well. Bruns smoking, Allen smoking. That was massive there for Joe Mahoney. His back end is gone, and I think he'll be ruining that. Maybe he forgot to actually start the car.
No, I did see him jolt a little bit forward. I think he might have stalled it, but Haywood in that 47 car is be gladly taking the lead after he finished P3 last week and the last round, and he was just outside that P1 and P2 battle that we saw. As we see, is it Dalton and Dylan Gray fighting over that P8. This is really anyone's race now. I think Mahoney is going to be pretty unhappy, but there will be another race where he can make up a few more points, as we see the 46 car of Hayden Green not on the racing surface.
Yeah, back on the racing surface now, but for how much longer? We've got the stricken Troy Allen up ahead of him. Richard Mayer has made his way up into third in all the chaos. It seems like Gavin Cox had a bit of trouble himself, as that's around there for Dan Mirko, another one of the Race on Oz Falcons, with big issues at the start of this race, and he'll fall all the way to the back, I suppose. Meanwhile, Richard Mayer having a go at second spot here. That's a great run that he got out of the final corner, and Gavin Cox has to yield to him coming into turn one. Brilliant stuff, but he's going to try and come back at him coming into Southern Loop. Unsuccessful for the time being. And what did we see in TCR in the previous race? Well, it's cars having trouble battling each other, letting the front streak away. This is on board from Isaac Edwards, and that is the nastiest surprise you could possibly get off a standing start.
Yeah, that's definitely a jump scare there. I mean, every car in front of him peeled away, and he's just unlucky enough to not be able to make a move in time. And yeah, he'll be spewed as we see Gavin Cox getting past Dalton there, perhaps on the inside at Siberia. They're still side by side as we go into the 4 and 20 sign. And yeah, no, Dalton's still ahead. On the outside is Cox for Hayshed, not really where you want to be, but he's held on to it. He's still looking to stamp that front bumper of the Falcon onto the back of the Commodore.
So here's what happened to Cox. He was trying to come back at Richard Mayer, but unfortunately lost control of the rear on the way through Miller, and trying to sneak through there was the Jinx Shifters car of Aaron Gilbert, ultimately successful in that. That has promoted Aaron Gilbert to second spot in the midst of all of this. A very chaotic start. We're only just starting lap 3, and I feel like we've got an entire race's worth of action. Matt Haywood, though, not troubled at all up the front. Look at this fight, though. This is interesting. Dan Stevens at the head of this pack. It's for 8th on back. Chris Pellet trying to find his place in the midst of all of this. We've got the damaged Tyson Hanmer as well, trying to make his way through.
Yeah, Tyson Hamner car's looking a little bit second-hand, but I think he's not going to be that too much affected by that. And he's staying onto the back of this battle pack. Is really starting to, well, it's already heated up. It's quite hot already, actually, but it's all happening up and down the grid. We've had plenty of action already. I don't even know where to look at the moment. It's all going on.
Yeah, I don't know either, to be completely honest with you. This has been absolute chaos in the start of the V8s at Phillip Island. Aaron Gilbert, though, managing to find his way up into second. He'll be trying to get some fast laps on the board to overcome Matt Haywood at the front of the field. Haywood, though, former race winner in V8. Oh, no. That is Tyson Hanmer, who's had a big old wobble coming down to MG. It looks like he actually lost it on the brakes over the rise.
Yeah, it looks like he pinched one of his front brakes up, which is pretty easy to do with the elevation changes. You're coming over Lukey Heights into MG there. It's quite easy to do, but he did quite a good job getting it back on track. And, you know, while that car is missing a few bits, I don't think he's going to be having any issues trying to catch back up. So we're on board with Richard Mayer now, who actually had a win last weekend in the Premier Endurance League, a couple hours around... I can't even remember the track now, but I was in it too. That's pretty bad. But he got a win last weekend, and he's looking to carry on that success tonight. He's getting a bit closer to Gilbert now, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, indeed. Well, defence here for the number 25 of Dylan Gray. Dan Stevens and Gavin Cox will be trying their best to work their way past. A double-pronged effort from Middle Finger Racing, who, coming out of qualifying, were looking like one of the strongest teams here, but with Joe Mahoney having his issues off the start, it's just completely flipped the order. Now Haywood and Gilbert are looking like the contenders for the win here. Richard Mayer could be an outside chance as well. Henry King and Dean Alessi fighting as well over 4th place. And Dylan Gray fighting off potentially a 3 or 4 car assault. Sean Vandermeulen in the 451 is worth looking out for too.
Yeah, it's all happening, and I think Dylan Gray's probably in a little bit of a tricky spot now, because he's going to have like you said, the two-pronged attack of a couple of middle fingers in his rear mirror. As you see Dean Alessi here in P5 chasing down Henry King. He seems to be getting closer and closer to that car in front. But can we see some moves getting made now? The field's sort of calmed down a little bit now. Touch wood, we're not going to see anything too crazy, but it's sort of calmed down now. We can get to some proper racing where, you're not always losing positions from coming off the track. We can see some moves being made as King is right on the back of Alessi as well.
Yeah, it looks like King actually, he lost the spot on Alessi there. So Dean's really starting to make up time. Looks like it happened on the way into Southern Loop. Was King a little bit deep? It looks like it. The grip just wasn't there in the front. Went wide and Alessi came sailing through.
Yeah, well done there from Alessi, but you'd be kicking yourself going too wide there. It's easy to do. You lose a lot of momentum on the outside at the Southern Loop there, as we see a drive-through penalty coming through for the 686 car Fitzpatrick for the contact with Daniel Mirko. So that'll be interesting to see where he ends up in the field. I think he's already in P12, so I think that'll put him right at the back of the grid.
And this is how it happened. So Dan Mirko is the orange and black Falcon up ahead of the Commodore of Blake Fitzpatrick, and just too deep. Couldn't quite get it straightened up through the braking zone, and around Mirko went. And by that point, Fitzpatrick, I think, rightly decided it's probably not worth slowing down for that. He's come to a complete stop. So Fitzpatrick is taking that drive-through penalty as we speak. Meanwhile, the fight's still continuing for second place between Aaron Gilbert and Richard Mayer. Gilbert's not gotten away from Mayer like I thought he would, and Matt Haywood is still holding on to the lead like an absolute champion. Dylan Gray still trying to keep Gavin Cox behind him. Gray has been a very embattled driver in this race, starting outside the top 10, and at the moment currently running 8th.
Yeah, currently in the middle finger sandwich as we cut to a replay. I think this is where Stevens got it done on him. He's locked up a bit trying to defend the inside. It's quite easy to do once you're off the racing line here. It's a bit dirty. And then a little bit squirrely coming out of the Honda hairpin into Siberia, and Stevens is getting it done around the outside. What a move.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Fantastic stuff. So Dylan Gray sticks middle of the road here to try and keep the defence up versus Gavin Cox. Meanwhile, look at this pack behind. Chris Pellett locks up the brakes just ahead of all these guys. We've got Mahoney, Banks, O'Keefe, Van der Meulen and Slater all in this fight for the last position in the top 10. Can Mahoney recover anything from that disastrous standing start?
Yeah, he'll be looking to stop at the wreckers, I think, between these two races and get some new parts for that Falcon. It's looking very second-hand, but you know what? He's done a great job to keep it on the track with all that damage, let alone get all these positions back. And there's a bit of a pack forming behind Chris Pellett in that True Blue Juiced Energy racing car. He might be a little bit of a cork in the bottle here, but you know what? That's not going to bother him if he's at the front of it.
No, certainly not. He's got a nice clear track ahead of him, and it seems like everyone's too involved with each other for them to really be a problem. So no monkey on Chris Pellett's back right now, apart from maybe a lock up at Miller. You saw that telltale puff of smoke. That was Pellett locking up the front right on the way in. And Mahoney's starting to dial up the aggression, it seems. That's the thing with these cars. You can take the rear wing off, but it doesn't actually affect the behavior of the car all that much. Mahoney's still keeping up a good turn of pace. Also, could say the same for Richard Mayer as he's starting to close in on Aaron Gilbert for second.
Yeah, and Dylan Gray and Gavin Cox are still going at it. He's managed to hold off Gavin Cox so far. He did let Phil Dalton through earlier, but Richard Mayer is definitely on the fight for this P2. He might have a bit of a slipstream here coming down into turn 1. He's getting closer and closer every lap. Potentially we're looking at a move getting made anytime soon, as long as he can keep on the back of that Jinx Shifters Falcon.
Is there anything left to do in these battle packs? This is a very tight fight with Chris Pellet still trying to hold back Joe Mahoney. And Pellet, I think, a little bit leery coming into Southern Loop. Mahoney just needs to nail the exit here.
Oh.
He's got a lot of pressure behind him as Richard Mayer has gone off at Miller Corner. Aaron Gilbert now safe in second spot. And it could be Dean Alessi next up to get into Richard Mayer's firing line. But Mayer gets back up to speed very nicely. This could give another chance to Henry King as well to potentially get on the podium, remember. Mayer currently still in third spot. It would be nice for Jinx Shifters to get 2 cars on the podium here. So what happened here to Richard Mayer? It was a big dive on Aaron Gilbert, and unfortunately, it was too deep.
Yeah, like we saw before, it's pretty easy to lock your brakes on the off the racing line coming into the hairpin, and yeah, he's just gone a little bit too deep, a little bit too eager to try and get through. But look, unfortunately, that's left him out of that battle for P2, but he still managed to hold on at P3. But not unless Dean Alessi has something to say about that, and perhaps Henry King as well will be looking to maybe follow Alessi through. As well, Alessi's all over him here as we come into turn 1. Is there any overlap? There's not. Could look at maybe a move lining up into... Oh, no, he's back. We thought we had a disconnection there as we see Pellets drop back, and we're going almost 3 wide into turn 1.
Yeah, Pellet manages to keep Van der Meulen and Slater behind him as they start battling amongst themselves. And oh dear, Pellet again a bit too deep in Southern Loop. That's going to allow Van der Meulen through on the exit. Meanwhile, up ahead of them, Blake Fitzpatrick moving past Troy Allen, who's still carrying a ton of damage, I believe, from the start line incident, and very wide in Miller. Pellet is going to leave them be for the time being. Let the cars behind him fight amongst themselves. That battle up ahead is still massive. Joe Mahoney, Brett O'Keefe, and Stephen Banks all over each other.
Yeah, these guys are swapping positions like kids at lunchtime with Pokemon cards. This is really interesting to watch. I mean, Pellet lost out on a few spots and then gained a couple right back. They're all going back and forth as we see O'Keefe is all over the back of Mahoney and Banks all over the back of him. So, you know, there's a lot of little battles going on here, and it's really great to see. This race is, while there's only a minute left, the desperation to gain a few more spots and a few more points, of course, gets cranked right up to 11 towards the end of the race.
Yeah, well, it's just about the end of this first race. 1 minute remains on the clock, and Matt Haywood is out of Southern Loop, so I think this might be the final lap. It's going to be a bit borderline. We'll have to wait and see. The white flag is being waved by Barney, so all Matt Haywood has to do out front here is just keep it consistent, make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes, because it seems to be the order of the day. Driver who makes the least mistakes ends up coming away with the win. It seems like most of the battles around the track have calmed down a little bit, but there is still potential for one final mistake to be made coming up to MG. And man, there's still quite a bit of racing going on further back. O'Keefe just getting passed there by Stephen Banks. Joe Mahoney driving away from them right now. This battle for 11th, they need to sort it out before they get to the start-finish line, otherwise there could be big dramas. But for Matt Haywood, he took advantage of the chaos in the opening laps, and leading every lap from here on out. 15-minute race, but it's where you finish that counts, and it is first for Matt Haywood. Aaron Gilbert finishes in second, Richard Mayer in third place. The fight is still on here as Pellet has fallen behind, and I think that will be Brett O'Keefe just snatching 11th place there. Sean Slater getting into 12th.
Yeah, Van der Meulen and Pellet battling right up to the end there, and it looks like Pellet got it on the last corner for, I think that was P14. Yeah, that was fantastic to see all up and down the grid. There was a lot of battles, but yeah, we can't fault Haywood here. He just drove away with it from the very start. He took that opportunity with both hands, with the stall on the start line, and now he's doing a lovely donut for us, which is fantastic.
Lovely stuff. Matt Haywood getting his night off to the best start possible. Brilliant racing from the number 47. 2.2 seconds was the gap in the end to Aaron Gilbert. Richard Mayer getting onto the podium, only 0.3 ahead of Dean Alessi. Henry King rounding out the top 5 for Team Jinx Shifters. Dan Stevens, Middle Finger Racing, considering everything that went on for the MFR cars through this race, it's a wonder that he started exactly where he finished in 6th. Phillip Dalton in 7th place, Dylan Gray 8th. Gavin Cox, our pole sitter, will finish in 9th, and Joe Mahoney, P2, 10th on the road.
Yeah, that was a bit of a drop for him. And Stephen Banks taking out P11. BJ O'Keefe taking P12. Slater, Pellet, and Vander Meulen all fighting to the very end there for 13th, 14th, and 15th. Tyson Hanman, we saw him get into a few incidents at the start of the race and managed to only finish 23 seconds behind the lead pack, which is great. In P16, Dan Merco, P17, Damien Cross, 18th. John Courtney, P19, Hayden Green, a lap down, unfortunately, in P20. Round out the top 20. I think there's 2 more cars, potentially. 4 more cars, sorry. Blake Fitzpatrick a lap down as well. Colin Bruns got into a bit of strife and finished 2 laps down. Troy Allen and Isaac Edwards, I believe, were both DNFs, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunate indeed. Blake Fitzpatrick with a penalty. Hayden Green also having some trouble out there too. Well, warm up now. We get a little bit of an opportunity to catch our breath here, Dean. It was a short and sharp 15-minute race, and we'll see how things go in race 2. Reminder that this is not the end of the weekend. Sunday, V8SCOPS will be racing at Phillip Island. You can catch it at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. It's going to be a fun round.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some of that. I mean, like we said before, Phillip Island's just one of those circuits that always provides some great racing. V8SCOPS is one of the premier leagues in Australia for V8 supercars. So every week I tune in and every week I see something crazy going on, whether it's a really interesting battle or a bit of controversy. So definitely recommend tuning into that one. But for the meantime, we've got another 20 minutes of this V8 action in these slightly older Falcons and Commodores. And you know what? 15 minutes in that last race went past like it was 5. This one I feel like is going to be the same.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be massive. This second race here, 20 minutes on the clock starting very soon. Of course, the grid carries over from race 1, so not much of a need to go through every single place on the grid. We haven't had a need for safety cars yet, but they are still there, ready to go at a moment's notice. Now, once again, we've had poor races for drivers who started on the front row here. Gavin Cox and Joe Mahoney, they have got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they've got a bit of a mountain to climb, but we're pretty keen to see how they're actually going to handle this, because there's a little bit longer in this race, but 20 minutes, still not a lot of time. There's no pit stops or anything to be able to jump over anyone, so they'll be eager for a bit of a redemption race. And meanwhile, Haywood with a almost imperfect race perfect race at the start, looking to back that up again. But I think Aaron Gilbert might have something to say about that right on that P2 position. They're a bit closer than when they finished the race.
Well, here we go then. Race start gets ready to go. Green flag will fly and the race will begin. 20 minutes on the clock here. What a wheel spin from Matt Haywood. Very well executed start from the Jinx Shifters cars. Henry King getting a slightly better run than Aaron Gilbert, but they are going to protect those top 2 spots coming into turn 1. Phillip Dalton ending up finding himself in 4th. That was a magnificent start from him. Richard Mayer having to give some room to Daniel Stevens on the inside as everyone made it through turn 1 cleanly, but the exit of turn 2 is where things really start to heat up here at Phillip Island.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's where the moves start getting made. As we see Stevens getting on the inside of Dalton, on the outside of Dalton there, potentially making a move. But they're all two abreast as we go all the way back through the field. We almost had another incident at the start as well. Dean Alessi didn't get away at all. He managed to not get rear-ended. But that's another stall on the grid, which could have been ugly. But these guys are all racing hard in the middle of the pack, but the top three guys are sort of top 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys are all sort of fanning out a little bit and spacing out, whereas we see, I can't tell who that is, getting on the inside there. It's Sean Slater as we go through Lukey Heights.
Yeah, and I just saw a little bit of contact between Matt Haywood and Henry King. Matt trying his hardest to stay in the top 2 spots. He gave Henry King a little bump in the braking zone for MG, but Henry held strong. And now this is looking like the last couple of years running in V8s. Aaron Gilbert in the lead by a country mile. Henry King keeping second place, but a lot of other drivers wanting to pick up the scraps and potentially take the big roast turkey for themselves.
Yeah, I think Hayward's going to have something to say to King if he wants to run blocker, because, yeah, I don't think that's going to fly well with him, as we see Richard Mayer get inside of Dalton there, and is that Dylan Gray getting inside Stephen Banks as well? So it's all happening up and down the field. But yeah, Hayward didn't get off to the best start, but he showed in the last race that he does have some great pace. So Henry King is going to be looking in his mirrors all the way through this, and Mahoney is starting to make up a few positions already as well.
Yeah, look out for Mahoney. He's got a clean car this time, and he managed to get off the line reasonably well. So plenty to think about when it comes to the pole sitter for race 1 and the championship leader coming into this round. Troy Allen, meanwhile, that's a big slide coming out of Siberia. He's going to have to give up at least 1 spot there, maybe 2. Sean Vandermeulen and Colin Bruns both go through on them. Colin Bruns is having a really good race, up 6 places so far.
And there we go. We see Hayward get through on Henry King. That didn't take very long at all. Now he's got a couple or second and a bit before he has to challenge for the lead. And that's a very well executed move there. I'm surprised that King wasn't defending that inside line into MG there, which is absolute prime real estate to make a move. But yeah, Matt Hayward now got his sights on Aaron Gilbert in that number 1 Falcon.
Well, now is the time that we see who gets the fastest lap, and so far it's Richard Mayer as we see an aerial view of the move. Well, at that point, I think the corner belongs to Matt Haywood. Henry King was trying to get to the inside. It was an aggressive move from Haywood, basically the same thing that he tried on the previous lap. So, yeah, I agree. I'm not sure why Henry King didn't defend that a little bit harder, but it looks like he's having some trouble keeping the pace up here as Richard Mayer gets into him. King was compromised coming into Miller, and he has paid the price.
And he's going to have to wait there until... Oh, my God, it's all happening behind as well. I was just about to say he's going to have to wait till the whole field goes through, but the whole field is getting caught up in the same incident. As Tyson Hamner is not having a good run here in the V8s compared to how he went in the TCR, but I'd love to see what happened there with Richard Mayer as well. That was a little bit hairy McClary.
Yeah, it was. Chris Pellett, unfortunately, I think missing his braking point and went into Hanma. This is the view from Richard Mayer. Once again, King trying to cut back, but Mayer saw the door on the inside and decided to walk through it, but I don't know if race control are going to see it the same way.
Yeah, good luck to the guys trying to make that decision. That's a tricky one, and Richard Mayer will be kicking himself that he got involved with that. But you know what, the race isn't over yet. I don't think it's probably worth a drive through or anything like that. Maybe a few seconds off the end result, but we'll see what happens. So you see another replay here of this is what's happened with Hanma. He's coming into, there you go. Like Pellet. You said, Pellet's collected him. And then a couple of cars getting caught up in that as well, which, easy done, especially such a tight corner like that hairpin. Pretty easy to get caught up in an incident in front of you. And we got Hayward getting closer and closer to Aaron Gilbert, Reese. And, this battle is definitely on. Has Hayward been in the championship in previous years, or is this his debut season?
No, he's raced in the last couple seasons of V8s, and he's certainly dialed up the pace here. He's a former race winner in V8s, hasn't quite been in championship contention, but could be here if this is anything to go by. Now, the reason I had a bit of a giggle a few moments ago was because I just saw Race Control's text message in Sim. All they said was, all incidents at Miller Corner under review.
That's a good blanket way to do it. I mean, you don't have to list out each and every single number.
Yeah.
I think they just want to keep the call-ins and the radio as quiet as possible so they can concentrate on making the right call. But there's a big battle here on for 5th. There's only 4 tenths between 5th and 11th place. This is a really tight battle. As you see, Phil Dalton at the front of it. He's got a bit of a gap on Dylan Gray, but, you know, along this battle here could be quite interesting to see as well. There's all these cars so close together. You see a little lock up there from the 505 of Phil Dalton at the front. But there's a nice little train of Falcons and Commodores behind him.
Yeah, it is. Dalton getting a slightly better run out of Southern Loop. Dylan Gray in trouble here versus Gavin Cox, who, remember, got pole position for race 1. He's got a lot of work to do here to try and make up for the unfortunate goings-on at the start of the first race. Troy Allen and Colin Bruns, meanwhile, just there trading places. We check back in with Gavin Cox as he tries to chase down Dylan Gray. Don't forget, we've got Stephen Banks in the midst of all of this as well. Banks having a pretty good run in the TCRs earlier on in the night and jumping straight into the Pacific Esports Racing Falcon. He's done quite well, up from 19th to 11th in race 1 and now solidly in the top 10. Could even be looking at a top 6 if things go his way.
Oh yeah, he's looking at doubling up some good results. It's definitely a hard transition going from a front-wheel drive TCR into these V8 supercars. But we've just seen through as well that slam dunk penalty. Chris Pellet's just received a drive through that for that contact with Tyson Hamner. And as he's coming into the pit lane to serve it now, he's going to be dropping right down the order.
Yeah, and it'll be a safety car that he'd be hoping for. Meanwhile, Stephen Banks has just made contact with Gavin Cox. Cox re-emerges back onto the racetrack, and both of them run wide here. Cox runs even wider. He's going to fall behind Mahoney, O'Keefe, and Slater. Cox now back to 11th. Have a look at Matt Haywood. He's going for it here for the lead on Aaron Gilbert. Both of them lock up on the way into Miller. But Haywood is back into the lead. You know, I didn't think Matt Haywood would be such a strong contender for victory. I mean, yes, he did qualify 3rd for race 1, but man, it seems like he's just come alive versus qualifying.
You know, maybe Phillip Island is his special track. You know, we see some drivers are really good at some and not so good at others, but Haywood is definitely showing that he is not a joke this season for the championship. He is definitely in line for that if he can keep up with Aaron Gilbert and let alone get past him like he's just done. Phil Dalton, Stephen Banks and Dylan Gray all still fighting over that P5. I think Dylan Gray just lost the spot to Stephen Banks just a moment ago, so it'll be interesting to see how that one shapes up. But I think you can try and see Haywood potentially try and pull away with this, but Aaron Gilbert's still keeping on that rear wing, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, slipstream is very strong in the V8s at Phillip Island, and Aaron is keeping up with Haywood very nicely. We keep an eye on Stephen Banks down the bottom of the screen as Dylan Gray has to now defend from Joe Mahoney, who has now made his way up into 8th. But the race is almost half over. Mahoney, considering his qualifying pace, should be a little further up now. Maybe his race pace just isn't as strong. And his recovery from stalling on the start of race 1, no good at all. Redress ordered for Stephen Banks for the contact with Gavin Cox earlier. Banks, I notice, has just run a bit deep there in Miller, and so he's going to be waiting for Gavin Cox, currently running in 11th spot. Will be able to let by Brett O'Keefe without much issue, and the same goes for Sean Slater.
Yeah, all sort of shuffling around there. But I was just about to say that, you know, Mahoney trying to get past Dylan Gray here as he's potentially looking to set up a move, but racing alongside and watching Dylan Gray in a few races recently, his racecraft is quite top notch. I think, maybe he doesn't have as much pace as Mahoney, but you should be able to hold him off for a bit longer just with pure racecraft and skill alone. But perhaps Mahoney's going to have a bit of a draft down here onto the main straight. They've just got to get this last corner linked up well. And I've eaten my words here. Mahoney's all over him. So he's potentially looking at setting up a move into the southern loop here now.
Yeah, Dylan Gray protecting the middle of the road coming into the opening corner of the lap, and there's not much Mahoney can do there. He can get on the throttle a little earlier, use up the tyres slightly more, and it'll have to be a slow and fast outrun from Mahoney as Stephen Banks gets passed not only by Gavin Cox but by Troy Allen as well. So the redress ultimately costing Banks even more, I think, than he would have wanted. Here's Sean Slater, meanwhile. That looks a little bit deep coming into Miller Corner, but room is given on the inside by Brett O'Keefe, and Slater will move through into 8th.
Yeah, that was a really well-executed move by Slater. He got on the brakes slightly later than O'Keefe. On that dirty side, it's not easy to do. It's easy to lock your front right tyre up, but he managed to get that pulled up just in time and make the move. So he's slowly moving up the field as well. As we go back to see, Troy Allen.
John Mahoney! Oh, dear! Oh, no! Off the track at MG, he lost it under brakes coming down the hill and was sideways at corner apex. Oh man, here's the view for him. He didn't get any bumps, the car was just unsettled, and Sean Slater didn't really have anywhere to go.
Yeah, I'd like to see another angle of that one, but yeah, it's pretty hard to get through that with a car right behind you and a car right in front of you. You don't really get to choose where you get to brake. So I don't think there was any contact, but there's a tricky little spot there to try and pull the car up when you've got someone right in front of you and someone right behind you. So we go on board with the car behind in Slater, I think it was, on the brakes. He's just done it all by himself, like you said, Reese. And then he's tried to cut through the inside there and lost out on a spot, unfortunately. Maybe make that 2. So that's unfortunate there for Sean Slater. Now back down into P9. So he won't be too happy with that, but there's still another 7 minutes left in the race. There's plenty of time to gain spots. He's already gained 4. He was up to 6 spots up before the incident. So speaking of gaining spots, Colin Brunn's up 11 places, Reece.
Yeah, Colin's having a really good run, isn't he? Managing to get onto the periphery of the top 10. Let's see if the battle between Slater and Banks proves profitable for Colin, as round the outside of MG, which you don't often see, goes Stephen Banks. And Slater, I think, a little bit rattled after the incident that Joe Mahoney had in front of him at the same location last lap. So he's trying to get back into the rhythm. There's not much he can do.
They're too wide behind him as well.
They
Sorry
are.
To cut you off.
All good. Colin Bruns and Damien Cross trying to fight over 11th there. That might give Slater a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, Slater's... Yeah, he needs to get his head back on now. I think, you get shaken up a little bit when you get out of rhythm. But, Phillip Island's one of those really tracks that really rely on your rhythm as a driver. And he's just got to find that again. And then he can start, looking at making a move on Stephen Banks and keeping Bruns and Cross behind him. Do you see Allen's flopped inside and collecting the 55 machine of Damien Cross? And sorry to say, but I think he might be earning a tour through the pit lane for that one, Reece.
I think he might be. That move was not on at all. Cross in the slipstream of Colin Bruns was going for the middle of the circuit, and it seems like Troy Allen was just a little bit too late on the brakes there. Went into a rapidly closing gap that was never going to reopen.
Yeah, once you've committed to that braking point, there's no going back, and I think he'll be expecting a penalty, of course, and he'll probably be a little bit upset with himself for that mistake. But you know what? This battle for first is still on. Gilbert is really close to Hayward. He's only 3/10 back. using that slipstream well. As you see the lap comparisons between Gilbert and Stevens. Stevens is closing the gap. He gained 0.3 on lap 9. He's slowly just getting a little bit closer. Maybe we see a repeat of the other round where Haywood was catching up to those two guys fighting over P1.
Yeah, there's great potential for that. Haywood and Gilbert would have been racing their hearts out and burning through the optimum phase of the tyres. So Stevens just trying to look after himself and be careful along the way. Here's Dylan Gray and Brett O'Keefe, meanwhile, side by side through the first turn. That is Gray losing the position to O'Keefe, and it looks like Brett has gotten away with it very nicely. His car looks a lot more stable than Dylan Gray's right now. I think the same can be said for Daniel Stevens versus Aaron Gilbert and Matt Haywood. These two fighting with each other, and look at that. Big instability for Haywood coming into MG. The rear end was almost gone, and Dan Stevens will be licking his lips here. Maybe Richard Mayer will as well, because these two are fighting tooth and nail. Could be side by side next lap. Only 3.5 minutes to go. I'm calling 3 laps.
I reckon you're spot on there, Race. Probably 3 laps to go. A few more chances for Gilbert to make a move. He's closing the gap, but Stevens, he's still getting closer and closer, and Haywood and Gilbert are just slowing each other down. I think potentially Haywood is just trying to hold him off and hope that Stevens gets onto the back of Gilbert so that he can slowly get him off edge or get that little bit of extra advantage coming into the final couple of laps of this race. But it looks like at the moment Haywood's got that car pretty linked up, that VOC Falcon. So we see Green getting out of the way as a lap car. Luckily not affecting any of that battle.
Dan Stevens took 0.6 out of the leaders on that previous lap. That is
wow.
Ridiculous pace. Actually, it looks like, closer to 0.3. My apologies. I think at the time I first looked at it, it was last lap's times. That's a much better comparison. 0.4 over the last 2 laps. So things are starting to get very heated here. Richard Mayer was actually the fastest of the top 4 on the previous lap. That's a bit of a problem there for Troy Allen, who has been facing multiple issues in this race so far. Gilbert trying to gear up for another maneuver here on Matt Haywood, who isn't looking very comfortable on corner exit coming through the final sector. The slipstream is now on down the start-finish straight.
Oh, it's
Is there anything
definitely on.
Dan Stevens can do here? Lap times across the line, 1 minute 30.9, 1 minute 30.8, 1 minute 30.8 for Dan Stevens and Richard Mayer. They have matched the pace of Aaron Gilbert here, but Haywood, it looks like, is getting vulnerable.
Yeah, Haywood potentially burning those tyres up early on, and potentially it's affecting him now. We've got that drive-through penalty for... Oh, he's locked up on the way in for Allen there, and this battle for P1. Oh, Gilbert, he's gone wide. He's gotten a little bit slidey, and then Dan Stevens is licking his lips here in that Commodore, looking to make a move for P2. This race is far from over. We've only got a minute left, potentially, or it'll be about 2 laps left now. 1 lap after this one, I'd say. And Dan Stevens is looking like he wants to get on that second step of the podium.
Oh, he's looking very fast through Hayshed, isn't he? A run into Siberia. Gilbert will gain a tiny bit back with a good exit, and he keeps it to the left side of the circuit. Stephen Banks, meanwhile, making his way past Sean Slater for 9th. Slater's still fighting him through Hayshed. This is looking very intense. It doesn't seem to matter where you are in the field. There's someone to race with. Banks takes the position back. Nicely done. Go defensive, and they also have Colin Bruns with them as well, but the white flag is out for the leaders. Who is going to come away with the win here? Will Matt Haywood be able to hold on versus Aaron Gilbert and Daniel Stevens? Will Stevens be able to pass Gilbert for second place, considering the pace that he's had right at the end? Oh man, Stevens was 0.7 faster than Gilbert on the last lap, and was also a little faster than Haywood as well. But Richard Mayer still looking incredibly quick in 4th. There's still plenty that can be done over the course of this lap. They don't have any lap traffic for quite some time. That's very late on the brakes for Dan Stevens, but he manages to get it pulled up with a great defense from Aaron Gilbert coming into Miller. Meanwhile, looks like Sean Slater has found his way past Stephen Banks. Colin Bruns has gotten through on him as well. Don't know if there was a contact involved there, but Stephen Banks is back to 11th now. We keep our eyes here on the front of the field as Matt Haywood makes his way through Hayshed, flat out corner in these cars, but you're at the very limit of adhesion. This is fantastic. Love watching these huge sweeping shots of Phillip Island. This is one of the most spectacular circuits in Australia, maybe the world. A slight lock-up from Matt Haywood coming into MG, but I think he's safe for the time being, and it seems Dan Stevens has run out of steam in his attack on Aaron Gilbert. So one more corner to go here in V8s at Phillip Island, and from the outside looking in, Matt Haywood is going to take both wins on the trot here. It looks like Philip Dalton and Brett O'Keefe have both had issues on the final lap as well. They've fallen behind Stephen Banks. What has gone on there?
Not entirely sure, Reese, but you know, it's never over till it's over. Anything can happen on the last lap, as Sean Slater has been up and down the order, and he's going to finish P6. What's going on there? He's gone off the track, potentially a lap car, I think. But yeah, wow, that was a crazy finish, and Henry King coming into the pit lane. He's got a meatball on the last lap. That's not what you want. No,
certainly not. It looks like that happened very early on in the lap. I think we're going to need some replays out of this. King's incident, I think, happened a while ago. Oh, yeah, I see what's caused it. Unfortunately, Dina Lessie made contact with Blake Fitzgerald on the way out of turn 1, and Henry King clipped him. That was back on lap 13. But Matt Haywood, nothing can be taken away from him today. Magnificent pace from the number 47.
And not only did he have the great pace, excellent racecraft to take that P1, but isn't he great at doing burnouts as well? The first burnout he did was perfect, and now he's going in a straight line. Do you reckon he practices these or what?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you drive a 600 horsepower rear-wheel drive touring car, you got to give it a go, and he's got to be careful not to get collected by the Race on Oz crew. Oh, man. Victory celebration ends there. So this is what happened for Sean Slater. No, that's Blake Fitzgerald. Is it? No, it's Stephen Banks. Yeah, so this is what sent him behind Colin Bruns and Sean Slater. A bit of contact there from the number 13, Sean Slater, 39 of Sean Slater. Man, that was a bit of a shame there for him, and then Colin Bruns decided to have another go at him. This is the incident between Dalton and O'Keefe, meanwhile. I think O'Keefe just missed his braking point, went right into the back of Dalton.
Yeah, easily done there, trying to set up the move. And the 555 there getting caught up in as well of Gavin Cox. But yeah, easily done there at Lukey Heights in MG. You can get that braking marker wrong and try and cross over. He's made a mess of that, and that's why we saw Gavin Cox going off the side of the racetrack. I think he had a lot of steering damage from that, getting caught up in that one.
Yeah, he did. They get back up to speed, and Gavin Cox only just holding on there to what was ultimately a 9th place finish. So Matt Haywood taking both wins tonight. Aaron Gilbert 2 second places. Dan Stevens up from 6th to 3rd. Richard Mayer will get 4th place. Still got a podium in race 1, so he should be happy with how things went tonight. Dylan Gray run up to 5th spot for this one. Sean Slater finishing in 6th. It's a big climb through the field for him, from 16th to 13th to 6th over the course of the 2 races. Bruns, Banks, Cox and Dalton will round out the top 10.
Yeah, that top 10 was all over the place all the time, and it didn't stop there. When we went out to P11 and onwards, we had BJ O'Keefe finishing P11, Dean Alessi up and down the grid as well in P12. Tyson Hanmer had actually done pretty well to hang on to a P13 there. He went up and down as well. Dan Mirko, P14, his teammate Isaac Edwards in 15th. Sean Vandermeulen, P16, Blake Fitzpatrick, Damien Cross for 17-18 as teammates, Joe Mahoney, P19, and Henry King to round out the top 20. We saw Chris Pellet get that penalty towards the end of the race there, and that definitely cost him finishing 21st. John Courtney in P22, Hayden Green and Troy Allen in P23 and 24, finishing a lap down, unfortunately. But that was a fantastic race, and I guess we're going to get into some interviews now.
Yeah, I guess we will. Matt Haywood is there in the interview booth, and he is right here with us now. Matt, 2 wins on the trot at Phillip Island after qualifying 3rd. That must have been interesting to deal with, all starting with Joe Mahoney stalling on the grid in race 1.
Oh, thanks very much, guys. Yeah, I knew I had more pace in the car in qualifying, and I was a bit disappointed with the lap time that I set. And when I saw Joe was there, just for a bit more context, he's actually on a different rig and somewhere else in Australia because he's got some wedding to attend. So awesome result for him to qualify where he did. But then, yeah, I saw him basically like reverse as soon as the lights went out. And then from there, it was just eyes ahead, managed to round up whoever else was on the inside. And from there, just controlled the race really well, if I do say so myself. The car had some awesome pace. I've done some great amount of practice this week. And yeah, just absolutely stoked with race 1, just controlling where I was. And mate, full points is pretty handy.
Yeah, indeed it is. Well, race 2 as well, certainly looked like it was an interesting start for you as well, with a little bit too much wheel spin off the line, but you managed to get the pace back with that great move on Aaron Gilbert as well.
Yeah, that's right. So being off pole, of course, the nerves go up a bit more, and as soon as you start to release the clutch, you know if it's going to be good or not. And as soon as I heard, I was like, oh no, here we go. But and then as soon as I saw another Jinx car in front of me with Henry, I knew I was going to have my work cut out for me. So it was just a matter of time of knowing I had the pace and just picking the gaps where I could. And had a great battle there with Aaron. And it was a sketchy move, if I'm honest with you, going into the hairpin. I locked the brakes just at the last moment. But I think Aaron was thinking of championships because he's going to be a really hard guy to beat again this year. So he let me have it, and yeah, bring on the remaining rounds.
Yeah, indeed. Fantastic stuff there from you, Matt Haywood. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Absolutely. Massive shout out to the guys at SimBlack. You know, I've seen on this broadcast time and time again, we always bang on about the Jinx Shifters cars. So one thing I will say, we have now got Jinx Shifters at SimBlacks here in New Zealand. So if you ever after one of these shifters, go and see those guys. Also shout out to Carl Rankin from Rankin Plumbing. He's on board with us and does a great job. And High Octane Images, thanks for coming on board, and we'll see if we can do some more winning for you later on in the season.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Matt Haywood. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to you in future rounds. But Dean, that's all we're going to have time for tonight. Next up is V8SCOPS on Sunday. It's going to be good. Some of Australia's best racing hard around Phillip Island, just like we saw tonight.
Yeah, I think if tonight's anything to go by, it's going to be pretty exciting. We saw that we're seeing in the pre-quali that the entire driver field is only separated by 1.0495 seconds, which is incredible, in the top 32 by just over half a second. So that's going to be really exciting to see. And like I said, if tonight's anything to go off, I think we're in for a big one.
Indeed. Next time you're going to catch V8SCOPS supports, meanwhile, is at Watkins Glen in April, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern. Once more, daylight saving will be well and truly done by that time, I would believe. So it'll be a bit of a later start for me as well, at 6 p.m, not 5 p.m. So if you're in WA, 6 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time for that. Going to be really good at Watkins Glen. Super fast track, much like Phillip Island. Slipstreaming is key. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We appreciate you viewing on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Kick, whichever platform you're coming from. We do love you and appreciate you. Big thanks to the crew at Aussie Online Gaming for organising V8SCOPS and V8SCOPS supports this year. I'm Reese Gardner, Dean Hunt with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy pressing all the buttons behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. Bye for now.